evening of Saturday, June 7th. Support the zoo and get your tickets today at sunsetzoo.com.
News Radio KMAN weather.
It's a beautiful sunny and 79 currently outside with some light wind. That'll carry into tonight, mostly clear with a low around 48 and some light east wind. Saturday, we're looking at sunny with a high near 82 again and some light and variable wind into Saturday night. Mostly clear with a low around 51. Might want to break out a jacket. Into Sunday, sunny with a high near 83. Into Sunday night, mostly clear. Once again, great weather for some baseball and a great time to get started with the game.
The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Man, I feel like Cole just kind of got dunked on with that weather report from Jimmy. That was a little poetic there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
He sent it off in style today, I guess.
Smooth transition, and you're right. Fantastic weekend of weather, low 80s, sunshine the whole weekend. Bad Cats are in town as well. So, it's your last chance, plus a phenomenal opportunity to get great weather. I hear there's going to be some discount beers in right field in pregame. So maybe head out to the ballpark a little bit early. But on the marquee, K-State, number 12, West Virginia, Toyton Family Stadium, 3-game series. It starts tonight, 6:05 for the first pitch. Pre-game coverage, 5:30 here on KMAN. Matt Walters and Trevor Hurley will have you all weekend here on KMAN. Welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner, Cole Dutchendorf, and Jimmy Kaufman with you until 5:30. We're debuting a new segment today. That'll be coming up at 4:40. We've teased it a little bit, talked about it a little bit. I'll go and just tell you what's going on because I want your recommendations. What I'm looking for, classic K-State football games. Because Cole, who's sitting over to my right, he's only 21 years old. And when you think of classic K-State football games, Cole has never watched them. So throughout the summer, it's going to be like movie reviews or whatever reviews. I'm having Cole go back and watch these classic K-State football games, and he's going to give us his feedback because I'm sure like a lot of it's like a classic TV show. I wish I could go back and watch The Office for the first time. I wish I could go back and relive in the moment when K-State beat Nebraska in 1998. I can still remember my dad stomping his feet and cheering when Darren Sproles was running 60 yards for a touchdown and the bomb to James Terry to take the lead against the Sooners in the 2003 Big 12 championship game. So bring in your recommendations on what games Cole should watch for the first time. You can call or text us, 785-537-1350. Give us your recommendations for classic K-State football games that Cole can watch for the first time. And I'm going to throw those recommendations as we're bringing back the hat. I'm showing those watching on YouTube. We're bringing back the hat. This used to be, this was a New York Mets hat that I got at an actual game back in 2019 that had sliders and fries in it. Tried to give it as a gift to Mason Voth. He didn't take it. It became our Ask Us Anything hat, and it's been empty for a while. And I have already some recommendations in there from those here around the station. I threw some games in there as well. But if you want to throw out some recommendations, 785-537-1350, you can call or text us. You recall like one of the first games you ever watched? Like, can you give us an idea?
I honestly didn't watch college football again, it was mainly a professional NFL for pretty much my entire childhood. So, I mean, when I'm thinking K-State football games, I'm going all the way to like 2015, 2016, like that late in my existence. It was not an early start for me on the college sports front.
Kind of a roughish time. As a K-State, I say roughish. I mean, they were going to Liberty Bowls and stuff and Texas Bowls, but 2016 was rough because we didn't hardly have any quarterbacks healthy, and Cody Cook had to take over, but it did get a little bit better. Chris Kleiman's here now and won a Big 12 championship. So you've had a taste of fun K-State football. But, man, you missed out on a ride.
And really, the only taste I've had is mainly the past couple of years in terms of, I'm fully aware of what's going on and also fully locked in.
Like, you missed, the heyday of Bill Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
You missed the emergence of K-State football, the birth of good football consistently in Manhattan. So I'm glad you have taken on the challenge, a game a week, trying to live through
I'm excited.
some of those moments by going back to YouTube and finding the full games and watching them for us. So we'll draw that first game coming up at 4:40. Again, we're out at 5:10. We'll start getting to those recommendations here in a little bit. As I can see, they're already starting to file in here. So what you're saying is, though, to me, is that because you're such a pro fan, what's happening to college football doesn't bother you too much.
Oh, it does.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Ross Dellinger from Yahoo coming out yesterday with a series of tweets. Of course, all the interesting news happens right as we get off the air. It was like 6:10. He started putting out this this Twitter feed or this Twitter thread stating that the 4 Power Conference commissioners held an in-person meeting in New York Thursday to discuss several issues, including a future playoff format. Big Ten and SEC, they control, of course, the future format because the ACC and the Big 12 got scared that the Big Ten and SEC would have their own playoff. Following up that tweet, a decision is expected. Let me actually hold on. There was a tweet before that, so bear with me for just a moment. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm getting these tweets in order here. So, the second tweet from Ross was, who's been on this show a few times, there is growing SEC and Big Ten support for a 16-team bracket, the most notably the automatic bids, 4 SEC, 4 Big Ten, 2 apiece for the ACC and Big 12. The group of 6 highest-ranked conference champion would get, or just maybe even just the highest-ranked group of 6 team would get an automatic bid, and then there's 3 at large, ... with season-ending interleague play-in games, 3rd place versus 6th, 4th versus 5th, and that's, again, according to Yahoo Sports. A decision is expected over the next month or two. The Big Ten and SEC hold their spring meetings later this month, where the SEC is expected to seriously explore a 9-game conference schedule, a move on the college football playoff format, and negotiations with ESPN for more revenue as well, which that's more buku bucks for the SEC. If they add that 9th conference game, what that will actually mean for the conference money-wise, it's been reported that they would get an extra $50 to $80 million per year for the extra conference game for each team every single year. The times we have talked about this, I've beaten this up to death, I feel like, because I think I've been very clear about how I personally feel about this. If you're a Big 12 fan, we probably feel the same. If you're an ACC fan, you probably feel the same. If you're Florida State and Clemson, you can't wait to get out of here. Despite the settlements, SEC and Big Ten continue, their leaders continue to not be leaders, continue to be controlling dictators of what college football means, what it means to the fans of college football. Because here's the deal: like, it wasn't long ago, ESPN expressed their worries because you have such a crazy thing on the table that it now sounds like it's probably going to become a thing, because the SEC and Big Ten can listen to Brett Yormark, they can listen to the ACC, they can listen to the other commissioners, athletic directors, but at the end of the day, they got the control. They get to call the shots. We were hoping there was going to be some sort of maybe an agreement. Let's say the Big Ten or the Big 12 and the ACC and everybody else, because there's still control there for the 2025 playoffs, they just do a straight seeding. There's no automatic bids for the conference champions. Like, they don't get the top 4. They don't automatically get the $4 million. We'll go and just go straight seeding, so you're going to probably see the top 4 just loaded with SEC and the Big Ten. So they're going to go get that money. They're going to get that money that comes with those buys. In the meantime, can we cool it with these extra automatic bids for the Big Ten and SEC? And I remember reading back in February, it was actually a Ross Dellinger report that apparently Brett Yormark was going to come loaded with data to state that there's better models that suits everybody, there's fairness. I mean, my guess right now is that didn't go too well, but I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about that. Ross has been pretty connected to Brett Yormark in this story. I hate this. And going back to a previous thought that I didn't finish earlier, I'll finish it now. You have SEC fans. You have Big Ten fans that are saying this is a load of crap. So what is this clearly telling me? They don't give a damn about the fans of college football. This is about making money. Mm-hmm. The Big Ten and SEC, the fans are still going to tune in. They're going to get over this a lot faster than us Big 12 and ACC fans. Look, I'm not dumb. I know the SEC has dominated college football for a couple of decades. They've won the majority of the national championships with, I mean, hell, the Big 12, like the current teams haven't won a national championship since Colorado in 1990. I was 3 months old the last time a current Big 12 program won the national championship. I understand where we're at. I mean, conference realignment bothers the absolute hell out of me. I know how good the SEC and Big Ten did we watch the NFL draft? Did we see how dominated those two conferences, how much they dominated the NFL draft? I mean, to me as a college football fan, this is totally unnecessary and it's stupid. It makes college football look so bad in multiple ways. My top argument is obviously, to me, this kills the integrity of college football. I feel like it's not going to ruin K-State games for me, but overall, for me, it's going to really stain and ruin, close to ruin college football for me. November is going to matter a lot less because a lot of this also, it comes in with the play-in games. That's going to determine who's going to get the automatic bids for the SEC and the Big Ten for me. I mean, with the play-in games, you have a pretty decent chance that decent at best teams are going to get a shot at a national championship in the Big Ten and SEC. That would have happened last year. An 8-4 unranked Iowa team would have played in the college football playoff with this model. It even further expands the power, the opportunity for the SEC and the Big Ten. The play-in games are bonus conference championship games in my eyes, which because of the less automatic bids, the Big 12 can only afford one essentially probably the 2 versus the 3. But we know how not long ago the Big 12 had to add a conference championship game because the conference was lesser value because they didn't have one. The committee was really taking in conference championship games, so the Big 12 had to add one. And now, essentially, you have the Big Ten and SEC, because of this model, is able to stretch out their season even more. They're going to make even more money, and they're going to have more conference championship games to make their lesser teams look even better. And when I mean November is going to matter less, look at the SEC schedules. They're front-loaded. You get into November, I mean, that's when rivals play. There's always going to be a decent chance Ohio State, Michigan, when they play, they're a lock for the college football playoff. So what does that game mean anymore? It's only going to mean anything if they meet again in a play-in game.
We'll even look at this past year when Ohio State and Michigan met. Ohio State lost. If any other year before the 12-team playoff format, that probably would have ended Ohio State's season, and instead it was just like, well, it stinks that we lost to a rival and we're going to get into a fight over it. But our season's still alive.
What I can't stand with this is it's now going to put, for example, who finished third in the big BYU or Colorado? I don't know where they finished in the rankings or before the college football playoff ranking when it determined the seeds and all that. But there will be instances where maybe at worst a 3-loss BYU team has a significantly less chance of getting into the college football playoff than a team that could have 5 losses in the Big Ten or SEC. So the parity, if what's left of parity in college football, to me would be destroyed. That's all I got to say.
It's bad. I think the 4 guarantees, the guaranteed spots is what drives me insane the most, where it's like, just put the best teams in there. It's almost making me miss the days where it was, let's just have the BCS poll decide it. Let's just get 2 teams in there and call it good, because it's just gotten to the point where it's so ridiculous. Like 4 guaranteed spots. If the SEC is that good, which they are, they're going to be able to get those spots anyways. You don't need these special guarantees that are going to lock them into those spots regardless.
It's going to allow the SEC and Big Ten, it allows them to create more football games.
Right.
So in that aspect, it creates an opportunity to make more money. They're just cashing in on a better opportunity to make money. And I've read some of the SEC articles and like, well, why this is a good thing is because the SEC is going to add a 9th game. At this point, who gives a crap about a 9th game for the SEC at that point? Who cares?
Because they're so worried about adding the 9th game because of they don't want to add it right now because of potentially worse losses or whatever for their playoff teams or decreasing their chances of those extra teams making the playoffs, where it's like, again, if that's what we're worried about, let's do what everyone else is doing. And I don't know. It's everything involved with this entire situation it's not, I don't like it at all. And I don't think, as you said, I think it's getting to a point where it's going to be extremely detrimental to the state of college sports and specifically college football, obviously.
I wish fans would speak up more about this. Really, the only way to speak up about it is through social media, which I'm sure the commissioners aren't reading any of that. It's so disappointing that the fans of college football are being completely ignored, in my opinion. Completely ignored. Because it's pretty overwhelming, and it seems like it's a clear majority of college football fans think this is just total garbage.
Well, that's what ESPN, that was one of their main concerns. They were like, well, this is going to alienate part of our viewership. If a group of 6 team doesn't get in there that would have gotten in there previously, or obviously with the 2 Big 12 teams, the 2 ACC teams, it alienates part of your viewership. And obviously if ESPN, who has been pushing SEC so heavily over the past couple of years, if they're having like, okay, wait, let's take a step back, let's think about this a little bit. If they're having those kind of thoughts, what does that tell you about the situation as a whole?
I'm pretty upset about it, as you can imagine. It's my least favorite topic to talk about. Mixed in with conference. I'm not against expanding the college football playoff. I just can't stand a team, or I should say a conference, 4 automatic qualifiers. If you tried doing that anywhere else, there's no way that would even be entertained. Because for a lot of the reasons I just mentioned, it diminishes the value of the regular season. For people to tune in November in crunch time, the games matter less.
Well, no other sport does it like that. It's one.
Because it's stupid.
It's one guarantee for winning your division, like in the NFL or in baseball.
There needs to be a reward.
Right, and then there's the wild cards based on what do they go off record. Obviously, it's a little bit different with college football because you're not playing every single team in the nation, but the rankings exist, the polls exist for a reason.
Well, and I think the problem with the NFL format and trying to fit that into college football is that college football is one of the more ununiform sports areas just because there are so many colleges involved. So you're trying to regulate something that's meant to be. You're trying to put professional requirements on an amateur sport with amateur athletes. So that's why we're seeing such a lack of parity and
Not so amateur anymore.
no, exactly.
I know what you're saying,
but
though.
that's the issue is they're trying to pigeonhole it to be this pro thing when all the amateur athletes and stuff are now getting left behind.
Well, I just don't think it's as much anymore as, look, we got to guarantee our teams get in. Because, I mean, even with the at-large, what I mentioned with the buy-in games, how does the Big Ten and SEC in most circumstances not come out on top there either? You're going to probably see 5 each every single year. Maybe Notre Dame, if they play well enough and if they're ranked high enough, they'll take one of those spots. There's a slight piece of me that is still grateful. The Big 12 will be represented. There will be 2 spots. Okay, great. I suppose we'll take that, but I'm taking it because there's really no other choice. Maybe it's the Big Ten and SEC throwing a bone. I mean, it would be way more outcry if there was none of that, and it's just. But I mean, that's too crazy. That's too crazy. Okay, anyway, I'm really getting sidetracked now. Okay. Let's take a break. When we come back, I do want to get to the Bad Cats, a couple of thoughts about the series this weekend, and we'll debut our new segment coming up in a few moments as well. We're with you until 5:30. More of the game coming up next, KMAN.
You're in the game on News Radio KMAN.
I'm Jimmy Kaufman, and this is a Game Sports Update. A key series with the Big 12 tournament just 2 weeks away begins tonight as K-State Batcats welcome in 12th-ranked West Virginia for a trio of games in Manhattan. The Wildcats enter the weekend in 6th place in the conference table, but only one game back of the trio tied for 3rd and 2 back of 2nd place Arizona State. With just the 2 weekends remaining, there remains the possibility that K-State could play themselves into one of the top 4 seeds for the conference tournament as those teams gain a first-round bye in Arlington. 23 of K-State's 28 wins have come with left-handers Jacob Frost, Michael Quevedo, and Lincoln Sheffield starting on the mound. Frost is getting tonight's contest with West Virginia, countering with lefty Griffin Kern. West Virginia has a league-best 3.77 ERA, which ranks 12th in the country. That'll be at 6 p.m. tonight. In Royals news, Bobby Wood Jr. had 4 hits. Chris Bubich pitched 7 innings, and the Kansas City Royals beat the Chicago White Sox 10-0 yesterday to complete a 4-game series sweep. Salvador Perez had 3 RBIs as the Royals posted their 6th consecutive win. Kansas City scored its first 6 runs on just 2 hits. The Royals will start right-handed pitcher Michael Lorenzen on Friday in the first of 3 games against the visiting Red Sox, who send out Hunter Dobbins. Now it's back to the game.
As Jimmy mentioned during the update, Batcats open up 3-game series tonight against West Virginia, the 12th-ranked team in the nation. And first pitch tonight, 6:05. Pre-game coverage at 5:30. Matt Trevor will be on the broadcast all weekend long. Take a look at some of the notes. For West Virginia, they seem like they're pretty decent. Despite really not playing the hardest schedule in America, they have played just 8 Quad 1 games. And K-State certainly has played a tougher schedule, yet they have not hosted a top 25 team yet. They have hosted teams that were in the top 25, but at the time of them coming into Manhattan, this will be the first team ranked number 12, 39-8 are the Mountaineers. Cole, you're saying that so West Virginia has the least amount of losses in the country?
They did drop one earlier this week, so now they're tied. So they have 8 losses now. They had 7 earlier. When they had 7, that was the standalone fewest losses in the country.
Lost to Pitt 10-9. Really nice road trip for them because they're probably flying out of Pittsburgh anyway. So they might as well just play a baseball game before they come out to Manhattan, Kansas. And I heard Jimmy's update. He was like telling me all about, they're so good at pitching, a 3.77 ERA. Their bats aren't too bad either. Top in the Big 12, but as I mentioned earlier, hadn't played the toughest schedule, only 8 Quad 1 games. They may be ranked 12th in the country, but they're outside the top 20 in the RPI. So let's look at the conference numbers. Playing a few tougher teams, right? Well, it turns out their pitching is still the best in the Big 12 at a higher ERA, but it's still, in college baseball, this is pretty good at 4.39. And their batting average, 3rd best in the Big 12, actually tied for 2nd best in the Big 12 at 3.04. They're pretty good. As you can imagine, and as you probably know, K-State is a much better team at home. They've only lost 2 games at home. They did just come off a road trip where they went 2-2, but they salvaged with winning their last 2 games against BYU. Honestly, I think it's real simple. Arizona is not as much of a worry as they used to be. Pete Hughes made some adjustments in the field. K-State is way worse on the road with the Airs than they are at Toyton Family Stadium. But since coach has moved, Maximus Martin out to center, Shin is out at short, Darter's at second, and now we have the sure glove at first base, a hell of an infielder in David Bishop. And by the way, he's been doing better at the plate as well. Had a lot of walks. Against BYU, K-State's fielding has been a lot better. They've fielded over 980 since that adjustment was made. To me, it's super simple because, K-State has missed out on a couple of sweeps in Big 12 play because of starting pitching. Mm-hmm. Tonight, Jacob Frost has to come through. to me, that is number one. Think about K-State's situation right now. 44th in RPI. The bracketologists out there in college baseball, there's more than one, that says K-State is a last four team in the field. Now, typically, if you're in the top 50, you're feeling probably a little bit better than last four in the field. Since K-State does have a voice on the selection committee, I would still I feel a little bit better about them than last four in. But now you got to build that resume. Don't leave any questions to the selection committee that may make them wonder, should we put K-State in the field? They had a really rough April. They're not great on the road. Is this a team that's worthy of getting into the NCAA tournament? Well, this is your best opportunity right here and right now with West Virginia in town. And Cincinnati's going to be tough as well, but that's next weekend. This weekend, you got a top 15 team. You can win a series. You could bet K-State's chances of getting into the NCAA tournament, reaching 30 wins if they can win this series, is a lot better. But it starts with Jacob Frost because 2 of his last 4 starts, he has not made it out of the first inning. One of those starts was at Toyota Family Stadium. One of those starts was last Thursday. Could not get out of the first inning against BYU, and K-State from there on out was trying to claw their way back. Starting pitching is not as solid statistically as West Virginia's. But I still think K-State can get some work done at the plate. Again, way better at home. But Jacob Frost is up against, statistically, the worst, although he's still really good, the worst starting pitcher for West Virginia in Griffin Kern. 4-1 at 3.59 ERA, but behind him Saturday is a guy with a 2.31 ERA. And then a guy behind him on Sunday that's got a 1.84 ERA. The bats have to get going for sure. Home runs will probably be a premium, but pitching has to come through. Starting pitching cannot give up the early runs. They're going to get in some jams. K-State has honestly been super impressive at getting out of jams this year, but they typically create those themselves with the walks and the hit batters. You got to cool it. This weekend is too big for those kind of mistakes this late in the year.
But you go back to, I think it was after the Nebraska meltdown where Coach Hughes talked about having maybe a target number in his head over the last 3 series of the season, with all of them being in Big 12 play, obviously. And we kind of we made an inference that was probably about 6. Winning 6 out of your last 9. So whether that's winning all 3 2-1, picking up a series sweep here or there, they took care of business in BYU. They picked up the average amount of wins that they need to in order to hit that 6-win mark. And now's where it gets maybe a little bit more interesting just because of the 2 teams you have lined up to end your season. And you do have the benefit of having the tougher team at home, and that's a place where you mentioned it. K-State has been phenomenal all year long, just the 2 losses. And both times that they lost at Toyota, it was either followed or immediately after winning 2 games in that series. I believe it was UCF. They lost that Friday game and then won Saturday, Sunday. And then I'm blanking on what the last series was. Was it Houston that picked up the Sunday win? I think that's right. I think they won the first 2 against Houston and then lost on Sunday.
I think that's right.
So they still won those series. If you can win a series against West Virginia, and again, that's probably simplifying it a little bit too much, but you'd feel pretty good about your chances, especially going to Cincinnati. Not that Cincinnati's an easy team to take down, but given how your bat showed up last time you were on the road in Provo, if you can get 2, again, a lot easier said than done against this West Virginia team. You're gonna help your RPI tremendously. Probably the good news is, even if you do get swept, which again you don't want to, your RPI is probably not going to take a huge hit given who you have in town. Although with it being a home game, it would definitely impact it more than if it was in Morgantown. But if you can pick up a win, 2 wins would be the target goal, obviously, against West Virginia. You're feeling pretty good about yourself going to Cincinnati.
Well, in Chapter 2 of this storyline in the mindset is you got to keep in mind that here in 2 weeks is the Big 12 tournament in Arlington. And seeding is super important because you now have no longer double elimination. It's now single elimination, and the top 4 teams are going to get a bye. K-State right now is in 6th place in the Big 12. Now, KU just lost to Cincinnati. They got swept by Cincinnati, and they lost to BYU yesterday. Mm-hmm. So they're starting to skid a little bit. Let's see here if I can find KU, what they've been doing lately. That doesn't say here what they've done like the last 10 or something, but it hasn't been necessarily pretty. K-State is actually just 1 game back of 3rd place. Get some damage done this weekend, and you hope some upsets happen. I'm not expecting Arizona State, Arizona, 2 teams that are in the top 4. They don't have a tough schedule the rest of the way, so I'm not expecting them to lose a whole lot of games. And I think K-State might lose a couple in these next 6 because Cincinnati's going to be tough on the road. They have a lot to play for right now, does Cincinnati, like K-State. Same records. Cincinnati's 1 game back in the Big 12, so they're hungry as well. That's going to be a cutthroat series next weekend. But if K-State can get in that top 4, it is so big these days to now that there's a bye, to get that bye and get that top 4. That is huge for your resume. Let's take a break. We debut a new segment when we come back, and I see some of your recommendations. I thought this was a great one. The 07 Texas game, not 06, which I do have in the hat. What I didn't have was 07, the Ron Prince stomp. I thought for decades that was going to be played on every highlight reel until I was dead. No, that's not the case at all. So I'll throw that in the hat. I'll tell you about the whole new segment thing when we come back. Stick around. The Game on KMAN.
Your home for K-State sports.
Beasley holds, looks, throws over the middle pass. Caught Morgan at the 5. Quincy Morgan, touchdown! Kansas State, and the Wildcats take the lead.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Currently still sunny and 79 outside. Tonight we're looking at mostly clear with a low around 48 degrees and some light east wind. Into Saturday, it's going to be sunny with a high near 82 once again and some light and variable wind throughout the day. That'll carry into some east wind and Saturday night. Mostly clear with a low around 51. Into Sunday, sunny with a high near 83. Great time to go hit the ballpark this weekend into Sunday night. Mostly clear with a low around 53. Now it's back to the game.
All right, new segment time. Have we debuted the name?
I don't think so.
We came up with this name in like 20 seconds. K-State Classics with Cole.
Love the alliteration.
Cole's 21. Jimmy, how old are you? As he pretends
21.
to
21.
scratch some records over there. You're 21, so you probably don't remember a whole lot of K-State Classic games.
I was at the 2012 game against Texas where we won the Big 12. That's a pretty big one.
Did you rush the field?
I did. My dad lost me for like 5 seconds.
Oh, man, I bet he panicked.
Oh, he did. And then he found me. And I was just chilling in the end zone.
So, as I'm sure Jimmy could relate, Cole has only been watching K-State football for like 8 years. So he has missed out on watching a lot of classic games. So I've thrown a whole bunch of games in here, and he's going to watch them when he can over the weekend or maybe on Monday and watch the games. He's going to come back with a review, maybe a star rating or something, or a helmet rating. I don't know, something like that. We can make it up as we go.
Out.
But I'm just very interested to hear from somebody that's never watched these games and just get the reaction to these classic games. And we're going to do one a week. So we're going to draw for that first game right now. I got this old Mets helmet that I got back in 2019 after being in New York for WrestleMania 35. This used to have sliders and fries in it. It has since not been cleaned. I don't know, honestly, where this has been the last couple of years, but I think there's 16 total in here. Mm-hmm. So here we go. Go ahead and pick your first game and tell us what it is.
We got 2011 versus Texas A&M.
Oh, so we got a bit of a newer game. That wasn't crazy long ago. By God, it's been 13 and a half years.
7.
I was in the student section for that game, like 5th row, right on the goal line. Do you know what happened that game?
Mm-mm.
4 overtimes.
Really? That'll be a long one for my first.
You're in for a marathon. If I remember correctly, you could probably skip the first quarter.
Okay.
Because I don't think it started well for K-State. I think A&M got out to a 14-0 lead. Then K-State got it rolling a little bit.
Well, that's part of the experience. Coming back from the brink, you know?
All right, well, if you want to watch a good team play like crap for a little bit, sure.
It'll be an early morning on Monday, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm okay with that. I'm in for the long haul.
All
I
right,
think it's going to be a fun segment.
So at some point, Jimmy, do you recall that game at all?
I do not. I was probably about 7 at that time.
Goodness. With a bunch of youngsters here. So I won't spoil it for you, but I do believe on a phone that was like 12 phones ago, I still have, I mean, you would guess I filmed it with a potato, but I still have the video of the last play of the game on my phone. I was right there right at the goal line on the north end of the bill watching that game end. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Well, this one's particularly good because I don't really know anything about this game. Some of the classics you obviously have either seen like the highlight videos or have heard the stories throughout the years. This one I will legitimately be going in completely blind. Like I don't really know much about this game at all.
Well, I'll tell you who the quarterback was.
Okay.
Colin Klein.
Okay. Well, I figured that as much as
so
given the time period.
You know you're in for at least some sort of treat.
Some fireworks.
Yeah. With that, I got to get to Toyton Family Stadium, guys. Cole and Jimmy will take you the rest of the way. Cole actually hijacked a segment idea from me. He's going to take over. He wants to talk basketball. He wants to talk transfer portal. There's a lull with the basketball teams. That's still to come in a short hour number 2. These guys will also finish hour 1 next. The game. Go Cats.
Miss any of the show?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Never fear, sports fan. Check out the Game podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and newsradiokman.com.
I'm Jimmy Kaufman, and this is a Game Sports Update. A key series with the Big 12 tournament just 2 weeks away begins tonight in Toynton Family Stadium as K-State welcomes in the 12th-ranked West Virginia Mountaineers for a trio of games. The Wildcats enter the weekend in 6th place in the conference table, but only one game back of the trio tied for 3rd and 2 back of 2nd place Arizona State. With just 2 weekends remaining, there remains the possibility that K-State could play themselves into one of the top 4 seeds for the conference tournament who gain a first-round bye in Arlington. 23 of K-State's 28 wins have come with left-handers Jacob Frost, Michael Quevedo, and Lincoln Sheffield starting on the mound. Frost will get the start tonight with West Virginia countering with lefty Griffin Kern. West Virginia has a league-best 3.77 ERA, which ranks 12th in the country. Just 2 days removed from winning the individual title at the 2025 NCAA Lexington Regional, Kansas State senior women's golfer Carla Bernat was named one of 10 finalists for the 2024-25 Annika Award presented by Stifel, the Haskins Foundation announced Friday. Bernat, the 2024-25 Big 12 Women's Golfer of the Year, is the first ever K-State finalist for the Annika Award, which is annually given to the top Division I women's golfer and voted on by players, coaches, and members of the golf media. Good luck to Carla Bernat. Now it's back to the game.
Jimmy, I'm going to do something that we don't get the option to do too often. I'm going to do something we don't have the opportunity to do here too often on the game, is talk a little bit about the NBA. I know Manhattan's kind of in a weird spot, and where we're just kind of 9 hours away from basically every NBA team in the general vicinity other than the Thunder. I'm a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, just kind of started liking them because of how bad they were and stuck with them from that. The second round, the conference semis have been absurd. I don't know if you've been following along at all.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The first ever was the first ever conference semis where every game one, the road team won.
Yes.
Which is insane.
And a couple of them are 2-0 with the road team in favor, with the Pacers a crazy win. I was fortunate enough to watch that one live. They were down 7 points with 50 seconds left, ended up winning on a step-back three with about 3 seconds left. So just insane game there. The Celtics have blown a couple of 20-point leads. The Knicks have come roaring back, which I'm always okay to see the Celtics go down.
Yeah, same.
The Nuggets picking up a huge Game 1 win with the game winner from Aaron Gordon. It's just been a really exciting playoff so far, in the second round especially.
I've been really interested in watching both Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves, as well as the Pacers. The Pacers have been probably the biggest surprise, especially after Tyrese Halliburton gets voted on by players as the number one most overrated player in the league, then immediately turns around and goes up 2-0 in Cleveland against the Cavs. It's been a treat of sorts to watch him.
You know, I know the NBA, the ratings are down and whatever, but I actually think they're doing pretty well this year in terms of ratings, and the actual product itself has been phenomenal the last couple of weeks. The end of the regular season was electric as well, with the battle in the West between like seeds 3 and 8. Timberwolves were a part of that. They did pick up a win last night, so a big win for them. Steph is gone. He injured his hamstring, so he's out till at least Game 6. So I don't love that. Just in terms of, you want to beat the best at their best. In terms of, you don't want to beat them with their players injured, but I'll still take the Timberwolves wins whenever I can get them. So that's my NBA plug for the month, because I don't know when the next time we'll be able to talk about it.
Right.
But what we will be able to talk about in the beginning of the next hour, a lull in the portal for K-State basketball on the men's and women's side. Again, K-State baseball at 5:30, taking on West Virginia, Game 1 of that series. Hour 2 of the game is next.
From lending options to treasury management services, KS State Bank provides innovative solutions to help your business succeed. KS State Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender, KMAN, Manhattan. Now, the latest news from the News Radio KMAN and Manhattan Mercury Newsroom.
RCPD arrests 2 on meth charges. A school board member files for re-election, and city officials reject the mayor's appointment of a former commissioner to a lower board. Good evening. I'm Stephen Schaefer. 2 Manhattan residents remain in custody after being arrested on charges of possessing and distributing methamphetamine. According to the Riley County Police Department, 36-year-old Cody Dodge and 30-year-old Brittany Vaughn were arrested Thursday evening and early Friday morning after officers executed a search warrant in the 2100 block of Elm Lane. Both have been charged with single counts of possessing meth with intent to distribute, possession of drug paraphernalia, possession with intent to distribute, and aggravated child endangerment, as well as marijuana possession. Dodge is additionally charged with driving while suspended and a second count of distribution of methamphetamine. His bond was set at $60,000. Vaughn has a bond of $27,000. Jamie Morris Hardiman has filed for re-election to the Manhattan-Ogden School Board. In a statement, the 52-year-old cited her dedication to working with vulnerable children and families as a key reason to continue her service on the board. Morris Hardiman is the executive director of Thrive Flint Hills, a local nonprofit program she helped create, whose mission is to use a long-term relationship-focused strategy to help families move from generational poverty. She is also an advocate supervisor at Sunflower Casa. She is the third candidate to file for this year's school board race, joining Courtney Jane Hockman and Lou Faust. City officials this week rejected the nomination of a former city commissioner to serve on the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board. Mayor Karen McCullough defended Morris's nomination, citing a lack of representation of Northview residents on city boards and Morris's knowledge of the city's comprehensive land use plan and zoning challenges.
I know Linda has a long history of service. I just thought in this case, to get somebody that had knowledge of these things and was from an area that is totally underrepresented would be a good idea.
Commissioner Susan Adamchak.
It's also incumbent on the residents of that community to seek out those opportunities. Linda is a friend. I admire her service greatly, as I think we all do. I don't like the idea of her being the token Northview person.
Commissioners voted 4-1 to reject Morris's nomination, with McCullough dissenting. Potawatomi County Commission continues to receive budget requests from various nonprofit agencies. At the May 5th meeting, representatives with Big Lakes Developmental Center presented a proposed budget request of $196,000, highlighting work with adult day services, residential services, center-based employment and training, community employment, and case management. 51 individuals are served in Potawatomi County. Other entities to present to the county this week include Three Rivers Incorporated, Community Cares Ministries, and the Potawatomi County Extension. The Grain Belt Express, an 800-mile electric transmission line to be built through Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, announced a $1.7 billion in contractor awards on Wednesday. The awards were made to Quanta Services of Houston and Quite Energy Group Incorporated of Omaha. Grain Belt Express is an Evergy product expected to add 5,000 megawatts of U.S. energy delivery capacity. It's also expected to provide $52 billion in energy cost savings to Americans over 15 years. In April, the Kansas Corporation Commission modified the route for one of two transmission lines that will connect wind and solar farms to the Grain Belt Express, originally planned to run for 46 miles through parts of Ford, Meade, and Gray counties. And a classic 80s movie will be at the Wareham's last presentation tonight before a massive renovation begins. Wareham Hall Executive Director Blade Magis says the movie selection is to
Currently sunny and 79 outside. Tonight we're looking at mostly clear skies with a low around 48 and some light east wind. Into Saturday, same stuff, different day. Sunny with a high around 82 and some light and variable wind throughout the afternoon. Into Saturday night, some light east wind with a low around 51 and mostly clear. Into Sunday, sunny with a high around 83. Perfect weekend to go out and get some stuff done. And it's perfect time to get back to the game.
Hour two of the game on News Radio KMAN. I'm Cole Betchendorf. Across the glass, Jimmy Kaufman. Is this the first time we've had this setup?
I think so. This is a first for me.
I think it may be. I know I did this one time with AJ to finish the second half of a show ahead of a K-State baseball game where Mitch had to leave a little bit early. I think this is a first for us. So we got the training wheels off, and ready to fly. You know,
Dad's out the house. You're with the youngins now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. Speaking of bikes, when you were younger, was there a lot of training wheels, or was it let's just go full-fledged straight off the bat? Let's hit the bikes with just the bike, not a trike.
I am a big look before you leap guy to the point where sometimes I forget to leap. So I was on training wheels until someone had to be like, no, we're not doing that anymore. You're done. You're done. We're taking them off. We're going to teach you how to actually ride a bike. And then from that point on, it was good. But I want to say I was maybe like 8 years old when all the other kids were running around without training wheels. And I was still, I'm like, I'm good. I'm comfy. You know, I'm sitting pretty. It's nice.
I think the first time I rode a bike was obviously in the trike form. And then basically 5 minutes later, I was trying to send it with two wheels, and it ended up in a bloody knee and a bloody elbow. But, you know, you live and you learn, and I think that's part of life, you know?
Exactly.
You got to take the training wheels off eventually, and I learned that pretty quickly on that, Saturday, we'll call it a Saturday morning is when I learned that lesson.
If you bruise now, you'll learn not to bruise later.
Right. I like that a lot.
Exactly.
All right, so what I want to talk about here in this first segment, again, if you're just joining us, we got K-State baseball ahead at 5:30. Matt and Trevor here on News Radio KMAN, bringing in West Virginia to town for a 3-game series tomorrow. Pregame starting at 3:30. Sunday pregame starting at 12:30. Super important series for the Batcats. Before we get to Ask Us Anything to end the show, I want to talk about what's kind of been a lull in the portal for K-State basketball on both sides, men's and women's. Hasn't been a lot going. It's been pretty quiet on the Western Front as of late. I believe the most recent addition for either team was Andre Kostic out of Serbia, and that was at this point 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So it's been a little bit since anything has happened. The most recent basketball news for either team was the hiring of Bill Peterson onto the coaching staff for Jerome Tang, a hire that I think is pretty widely liked. It's a good hire, it seems, as far as we can tell. 47 years of basketball experience. They coached together at Baylor, have that good working relationship.
Worked with the likes of Karl Malone, Steve Nash.
Dirk Nowitzki is in there.
The big one.
Seth Curry is even one of them, and worked at every single level of basketball that you can possibly work over the past nearly 5 decades. But that's really been it on the news front. It's been pretty quiet. Again, there was a couple that came kind of in waves for K-State on the men's side. It started with, I believe it was Abdi Bashir was the first guy that the Cats got out of the portal, not losing to the portal. Obviously, there was a lot of losses on that front. But I believe Abdi was the first one that the Cats got a commitment from when that was a big pickup, the 20 points per game shooting guard out of Monmouth. Just want to recap things because it's been a while since anything's happened. So right now, where it currently stands on the men's side, and we'll do the same thing for the women a little bit later. For the men, Nate Johnson, Abdi Bashir, Andre Kostic, Tyreek Smith, question mark, we'll get back to him, and Kamari McGriff is their portal class so far. They also have Xavier Wilson. That is their only 2025 recruit, a 6'1" point guard. So that's who they currently have outside of the roster. Players that are not returning from last year's roster. The returners, Taj Manning, Moby Ike Garuka, and David Castillo, the only 3 returners. And really of those 3, it was basically David Castillo who was getting decent minutes. Even you could throw in Moby in there late in the year.
I think out of those 3, this past year Moby has been my favorite, just defensively.
He was a spark plug on the defensive side. And then Taj Manning, he's been with the program. I think it's his 4th year because I think he was there when Coach Tang started. I believe he was a Bruce commit.
He's a Bruce guy, yeah.
And he's still stuck. I don't know exactly why because he's never really gotten into the Coach Tang system in terms of never been in the rotation, but he's, to his credit, he's stuck around. I can respect that in this era of college sports. Will he necessarily be on the court a ton this year? I'm not sure. He might have to be.
In a world of players jumping from place to place to place, Taj Manning is the biggest enigma in my life. in my eyes, I'm like, how in the world? You were the only guy who has not gotten more than like 5 minutes in a game for now 3-4 years under Jerome Tang, and yet he keeps sticking it out. I would love to just. Someone's got to start asking him questions. Like, what is it about K-State? Is something promised, or what's the deal?
I can respect it to a point, wanting to stick through with the commitment. And
I love it.
Even though he hasn't really gotten a ton of run, but I like that there's a little bit of continuity from class to class.
Well, and to that point, Jerome Tang went on record back, I think it was January, and said, hey, we want to be the Houston We want to be the next Houston. We want guys to stay. You have a guy staying on your bench right now. I think he deserves at least some chance. You know what I mean? I don't think he's getting the proper opportunities in a game to really do anything.
And I wonder if part of that is just it wasn't his recruit coming in, but I don't want to speculate too much on that. What I do want to go over is what's the next step for the men. There's the ground workings for what could be a pretty good team next year. I feel pretty comfortable saying that they could be a good team, given what they currently have. Not a great team, maybe not even an above average team, just a good team. They're gonna fight in non-conference. They're gonna be a decent team in the Big 12, maybe a little bit similar to this past season. Hopefully, winning record and whatnot. But I think they have again the building blocks for what could be a pretty good team. The problem is there's definitely still some glaring issues that need to be fixed and addressed. Number one for me is Tyreek Smith going to play? Is he going to get a waiver? Is he going to be in a Wildcat jersey next semester? We still don't have the answer to that question. There's a reason I said Tyreek Smith ? Because we literally do not know 100% will he be on this roster for next basketball season. He was a 6'8 power forward / center / wing. He kind of can play wherever he needs to from Memphis. Transferred mid-season and didn't play at all with K-State except for on the practice court. And Coach Tang talked about it. He said this is a guy who's been great for us on the practice side to bring that physicality day in, day out. In a conference that's as physical as any that there is in the Big 12, you need that kind of energy on the practice court as well. But he still needs to get a waiver to be able to play. So if he doesn't get a waiver, here's your front court right now. I don't love this. It's kind of putrid, to be honest. It's not good. It would be Moby Ike-Garuka, Taj Manning, and Kamari McGriff. That's not... You talk about building blocks, that's at the guard position. That's what they currently have. They don't have a front court currently. Ike-Garuka plays taller than he is just because he's an absurd athlete. And again, his motor kind of makes up for maybe what he lacks in terms of just straight up basketball skill. I think he's still kind of learning the game, and that's pretty evident on the court. But he's going to give 110% effort literally every single play of every game.
He's got that Travis Hunter motor where he just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stop.
And then we've already talked about Taj Manning, so we don't need to go any deeper on him.
You got 5 minutes a game there.
And then Kamari McGriff, who I liked the pickup from UNC Wilmington, played in the post, came off the bench. So it's a question mark, like you're coming off the bench at a mid-major. What's the viability going to be in your transition from that mid-major then to Big 12 play where it's faster, it's more physical? It'll just be interesting to see what his role is. I think he can be a 20-minute per game guy like he was at UNC Wilmington. Maybe he could start in a limited capacity at that power forward center position. I don't think you need to be a huge team. I think Jerome Tang, you've seen the strength in his teams have been at the guard, at the wing positions. It hasn't necessarily been this big bruising force inside. So I don't think it's necessarily you need to have this amazing front court, but also you need to have some front court. And currently it's definitely it's not a full puzzle right now. There's definitely some missing pieces at the front court, I believe. And I think probably my other wish list, if you will, would probably be a true dominant ball handler, because I don't think they currently have that on the team. You look at the guards they've picked up out of the portal. Nate Johnson, really more of a shooting guard at Akron last year. Abdi Bashir, more of a shooting guard / you can throw a small forward in there at Monmouth, a shot chucker. Xavier Wilson, he's a point guard. You don't want a true freshman as your starting point guard. David Castillo, he'll have to show some strides. I still love that he stayed, and I think his talent is off the charts. We just need to see that next step taken. Don't know if you want to throw him to the fire and have him be the starting point guard right off the bat to start the season.
Could kill his confidence there.
Right, and you don't want to do that. And then obviously Andre Kostic, again, shooting guard, small forward. Could he handle the ball? Yes. Could Nate Johnson handle the ball? Could Bashir handle the ball? Yes. All those players can handle the ball, but in terms of having a ball-dominant primary point guard the action's going to go through him, I don't think they currently have that. Maybe they've just decided, let's go point guard by committee. I don't necessarily hate that, but I also would like to have someone who every single game in crunch time you know who you're going to in terms of who has the ball in his hands, who's going to get the offense facilitated. Those would be the two things that I think are still missing. We need that desperately, because if you can't get a more of a front court piece, I mean, what is this team going to be next year?
Well, and I would argue that that's been the issue for now almost the entire tenure that Jerome Tang has had, because since Marquise Noel has left, this team has needed a Marquise Noel to step up. And the fans thought, hey, that might be Doug McDaniel. He enters the portal, and Doug McDaniel was maybe half of the quality that Marquise brought. And I understand that's a generational talent we're talking about, but I haven't seen an improvement or strides taken scheming wise or with other pickups, because they all come in and they leave. So K-State really needs to not only lock down some people to stay, but needs to, I guess, develop. David Castillo is really the only answer right now. I don't think there's anyone in the portal that truly jumps out to me as a true ball handler that's interested in Kansas State, and there definitely hasn't been any talks about it for K-State.
So those would be my main two worries as we head into the summer months. I still think that the team can figure it out. It's just a matter of will they. The European route, we've heard that the talking from the folks at KSO, that's been one thing they consistently are beating that drum. They're going to go the Europe route. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that unfolds. And then you kind of just touched on my last thought. What will the offense look like next year? Because what it currently stands, you're probably looking at another year of 5 out, which we know what Mitch's thoughts would be on that. I don't love it, but I think at this point, with what the roster looks like, you'd probably have to do it. It'd have to be a small ball 5 out lineup. Okay, I want to transition for the last 5 minutes or so to the women's side of things. I'll go over the players they currently have on the roster, and then we'll go over maybe what they're lacking. So this is in the upcoming class. They got Anaya Ford, a 4-star guard, Jordan Spicer, the 5-star. We've heard so much about her, and she really could be the piece to this entire team next year, which is a lot of expectations to levy on a freshman player, but I think if anyone has it, she's probably warranted those kind of expectations. Gina Garcia, a 5'9 guard from Spain in this upcoming class, and then Brandy Herod, a 6'1 forward, a 4-star. I believe that was the flip. I don't remember. I think it was maybe Mississippi. Auburn. Okay. I knew it was an SEC school somewhere down there. She was a 4-star flip, a 6'1 forward in this upcoming class as well. Then the sophomores in the class, Alexis Hess, Ramaya White, Isela Arenas. Those are the 3, and I believe just 2 of those are transfers. Ramaya White, the 6'5 center transfer from Virginia Tech, and Arenas, a guard transfer from Louisville. The juniors on the roster, Terrence Sides, we know enough about her, and Michaela Parks. Michaela Parks has been on the team also with Alexis Hess. Were on the team last year, just didn't play. And then the seniors, the 2 seniors on the squad, Kennedy Taylor, the 6'2 forward, who was given that waiver for an extra year, and then Tess Heel, the 5'8 guard, a transfer from Stanford, the Australian. So the one thing that leaps off the page is a lack of size, especially at the 5. I would assume the plan is not to have Ramaya White starting off the bat, because she didn't start at all for Virginia Tech last year. I believe she averaged about 2 or 3 points per game. So it's not like she has a ton of experience under her belt. What you could do is what K-State did when Ayoka Lee was down with injury, and that was go to Kennedy Taylor at that center position. The problem is she's a little bit undersized, maybe for what you would want as your starting post. Not to say that they can't go small, because I think this team they'll have a lot of strength in going small. And they do have some size. Don't get it twisted. Anaya Foy, Jordan Spicer, and Brandy Herod are all 6'1", so they have size. And I think even at that guard position, it's going to be pretty much as big as the forward and the centers on this team, outside of course, Ramaya White, who is 6'5". Guard play is going to be crucial, and it kind of goes without saying at this point. I would love another proven scorer out of the portal. Problem is, I don't know if that exists at this point in the portal season. Pretty much everyone at the top of the class has already committed to where they're going to go. I don't know a ton about the inner workings of, which top end recruit has gone where, but I don't think many of them are left over. So I don't know if there is that kind of guard or even a wing like a Tamara Poindexter last year. Honestly, I think she would have been perfect for this upcoming year, because this is when you would have seen maybe that Tulsa Tamara, in terms of she's just going to be chucking shots, which she did at Tulsa and was very proficient at doing it.
Yeah, I think in this lineup, Tamara would be the perfect kind of number 1 player. This past year, the number 1 player was like 5 different people, right? You had Serena Sundell, you had Ayoka Lee, you even had Terrence Sides when she was coming off the bench. She was kind of a shot chucker at times. But Tamara in that fold ended up being only the probably the third highest scorer, I'd say, or the third most important player with the ball on the team, which worked out because that's just loads of talent.
And that's an amazing third
It's
option to have.
But it's also an amazing first option. I think
Right.
a lot of people forget that the dynamic when you're bringing in a number one scorer to a new environment and they have to shift, you're going to see not only a little bit of their game deflate, their numbers deflate a little bit, but you're going to see the growing pains of trying to fit into your new role. I think she would have fit into the same role that she did in Tulsa this year, and it's nice to
because she averaged like 20 points per game at Tulsa. She was a beast. So the two things you probably need, I already mentioned a proven score. Again, don't know how likely it is you're going to find it at this point in the portal, and also size. You need size desperately. This is a small team right now, especially at the power forward center position. You need to stack up some bodies. I mean, you're going to have to. There's some good posts in the Big 12. And it's a necessity. I think that's a glaring issue with this coming roster. I think it can still be fixed, but that's definitely it's kind of the same thing for both teams.
Yeah.
In a way. Not as much scoring for the men, but you need a proven leader maybe at the point guard position, the same way you need a proven leader for the women, and then a lack of size is the biggest thing.
I think the leader on the women's side will be Taryn Sides. I think if she takes the next step and just gets more efficient in her shooting, K-State's going to be great this year, and I truly believe that. I think that someone I hope really comes out and surprises everybody is going to be Jordan Spicer. I'm going to be watching her like a hawk because I think that she could be an immediate impact to this team. She's so talented. McDonald's All-American, one of the highest scoring careers in high school in the state of Kansas in history. I think that she could be the immediate impact. And I think she's the scorer you're talking about. I know that we might want an extra one out of the portal, but I think Jordan could be the next step for K-State.
I might temper my expectations a little bit. I think this is, in effect, a rebuild year. Now, will it be rebuild results where they have a losing record? I don't think so. They have too much talent on this roster for it to be a rebuild year in terms of what the end results look like. But I know after a season, which was one of the greatest in K-State women's basketball history, I think it'll definitely be a drop off. I would be happy if they made the tournament. And I truly, that's kind of where I'm at because it's just such a young team. I think that's a great thing, though, especially in this era. A team that's been pretty good in terms of retention. Obviously, with this last year maybe being a little bit of an anomaly. You lose Sanchez, you lose Zy Walker, etc. But I think you have some great building blocks for a program to build it up. I mean, this upcoming freshman class it's star-studded, and you only have 4 upperclassmen on this roster, only 2 seniors. So I think the future is bright for K-State women's basketball. Ask Us Anything is next at 5:30. Bottom of the hour, we got Matt and Trevor. K-State baseball taking on West Virginia. Again, back with Ask Us Anything after these words.
You're in the game on News Radio KMAN.
The game. Welcome back. It's time for Ask Us Anything. Jimmy Kaufman here with Cole Dutchendorf. We got K-State baseball tipping off again, or not tipping off, starting off against West Virginia. The series starts at 6 p.m. We got coverage here at 5:30, moments away. Matt and Trevor out there in Toynton Family Park. But for Ask Us Anything, Cole, question for you.
Let's hear it.
Let's see here. My question is, what is your biggest pet peeve and why? Double question, what do you think is a pet peeve that, like, should not, or like a common pet peeve people say that, like, you do not care about, you think is a dumb pet peeve?
I'm going to travel to the roadways. I'm going to give a traveling pet peeve, a in-the-car pet peeve that I just can't stand when other people do it. It's when they speed up to then either get into the lane or the worst is when they speed up to slow down. Like they're speeding up, they pass me, and they immediately get over and like exit on the interstate, for example, or get off of the road. Oh my goodness! If you want to get me hot, that's a great way to do it.
Wow. What's a pet peeve that you think is like not really a thing? Like you don't understand why
it shouldn't be. I need to pull up just like what are some common pet peeves. You have any examples that are coming to mind for you?
I don't know. People like picking at something, or like, you know, I don't know, being loud. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one. I think my personal pet peeve, though, what is my biggest pet peeve? I hate, I'll go driving as well. I can't stand when people don't use their turn signals just because it's so easy. I'm like, just do it. Like, just, it's the biggest nothing to do.
Here's one. I'll go toilet paper, the flap going over instead of under. I think I'm a big over guy.
Really?
Yes, the flap needs to be coming over.
See, to me, that's a pet peeve that I just don't.
You just don't care?
I just don't care. I'm like, why? It's
fair.
Toilet paper, bro. Like,
I think that's a fair point, and it's probably the more mature point to have. You know, but sometimes it's okay to be a little immature in life. That just about does it. Jimmy, I think we did a good job of holding it down for about 30 minutes over here in the studio. Mitch heading out to Toynton Family Stadium as we get set for K-State taking on West Virginia. Huge series. You're going to hear all about it. Pre-game coverage starting in about 30 seconds here on News Radio KMAN. Jimmy, it's been great to have you along for the past couple of weeks. Maybe we'll see you next semester. I don't know.
100% you will.
Okay.
I appreciate it, Cole.
I like to hear it. It's been a blast, and again, we'll look forward to having you back on the show come next semester at K-State. That just about wraps up this edition of the game. We'll be back Monday, I believe, a full 2 hours here on News Radio KMAN. For Jimmy, for Mitch, who's at Toynton, go Cats.
The following is a presentation of News Radio KMAN, the flagship station of the K-State Sports Network.
Last weekend's 4-game road trip could have been a death knell of sorts for the